Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Bullony Basketball. Here today with my man, JELSON. How's it going, bro?
It's going great, man. It's a pleasure to be on the channel again.
Yeah. I'm glad we can collab again. We got a lot of stuff we're going to be talking about today. Unfortunately, no Timberwolf talk. But it could pop up in the 20 questions game. You never know. I think the first thing we're going to talk about is just some teams that have been up and down lately. I think we're going to start with two of them that have been up that I haven't really talked about recently on my show, and that is the Denver Nuggets and the Memphis Grizzlies. Both of them tied for basically 1 and 2 in the Western Conference. You look at the Nuggets. I mean, Jokic playing again like an MVP caliber player. Arguably might be the favorite right now, but he's at least up there. Jamal Murray's looked better recently. Aaron Gordon has played well lately. And they got Michael Porter Jr. back. And then you look at the Grizzlies. I mean, they've been able to do this pretty much with a ton of inconsistency, like with their roster all being there together. Like you had Bane who was there, then he went out, and Jaren Jackson was out, then he came back, and Ja, like he's always due to miss a couple games in a season, and yet they're still able to get through it. So I guess I'll ask you, who do you think of these two teams is maybe the better contender, and just as a whole, what have you seen from both of them?
That's a really good question because when you sent me what we were talking about, it was like the thing that I was having a difficult time deciding who I thought was, the better team. And I think I ended up with the Nuggets. And it's mainly because, well, first of all, I think both teams have star-studded rosters, complete rosters, no questions about it. And then, both teams have, Nikola Jokic and then Ja Morant. So you have an absolute star at the helm of each of the teams. But then when I was watching the Nuggets, they brought up that they have the highest three-point percentage as a team. And I thought that that was really what's going to separate them. Both teams are, well, we know the Grizzlies have Jaren Jackson Jr., who's always going to be in Defensive Player of the Year consideration. It seems like it's going to be the way until he retires. He's an absolute stud on the defensive end. And the Nuggets may not have that, high caliber defender that can really lock it down, but they do have somebody, as we've been talking about, Nikola Jokic, who I think is a little more versatile than Ja Morant, where he can pass. He's been a better defender than he was many years ago. And also, I think he's up to about 38% from three-point land, which is, well, better than I expected coming into the year. So I love the Nuggets, what they have on paper. The Grizzlies, obviously, I'm a little biased being a Timberwolves fan since that's our rivals, but Ja Morant's a stud. So I think it's very hard to count out Ja Morant along with Trey J. And then the surrounding pieces, Desmond Bane hasn't been quite as good as he was to start the year. As you said, he's been injured a little bit. He was very good to start the year, but not quite as good. Obviously, having a couple other pieces on the team that I believe are, high caliber pieces. Dylan Brooks is a high caliber energy piece, which everyone has different opinions on him, but I think nobody can deny that he adds energy to that squad. So I think it's a really difficult conversation, but I think I'm going to have to go with the Nuggets as of right now.
Yeah, I think, and I will say too, like, both these teams should be in the same sentence with the word contender. I know, like, just because they're 1 and 2, there's other people who will throw out, like, the Bucks in the East, or like the Clippers or Warriors or whatever, just because those are like the most popular picks. But even if you might think those teams are better, I think both these teams still deserve to be in that talk, because right now it seems like the West is wide open, and really, like, the whole league is, I don't even know what's going to happen. But if I were to compare them both, I would say it's a little bit interesting. Like, I think the Nuggets have maybe more star power. Obviously, with Jokic, it seems like he's able to just do something remarkable every other game. I think George Karl, I saw he said something like, he, in his whole time, like, watching or being around the NBA, I think he's like in his 70s now or something like that. He said that only Michael Jordan, Shaq, and Nikola Jokic have been the three players where he wouldn't really know how to stop him or game plan against him. And this is a guy who was literally 10 years ago Coach of the Year, bringing a team with like no all-stars to 57 wins. So, I mean, that's, I think, high praise right there. And again, like Jamal Murray as well. Their three-point shooting, like you said, I mean, they got guys like KCP shooting well. I don't know the exact stats for Bruce Brown, but I think I heard the other day he's shooting like 41% from three this year. So, like, they, and Bones Highland as well, I mean, like, they got a lot of guys on the perimeter as well that can be great outlets for Jokic when people double-team him, because a lot of people have double-teamed him. And Jokic, being the great passer he is, he's going to find these guys, especially if Michael Porter Jr., like, can be more consistent with his shot. Because some games he'll go off and then other games he'll be off. But yeah. And then as for the Grizzlies, I think, you know, maybe this team doesn't have quite the star power, even though Ja, like you said, he's probably a top like 10-15 range player in the league, I would say. And even though like the rest of the roster probably doesn't shake up in terms of star talent, even though Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. have both been playing well, like they probably have a more deeper cast, I would argue, than Denver, because it's like you also got Dylan Brooks on the perimeter to defend. You got Steven Adams, who is arguably the best rebounder in the league right now. I mean, he's definitely one of them. And then you got like Tyus Jones off the bench. Santi Aldama, he stepped up earlier in the season. Like, they just have a lot of guys that they could go to. I think I saw Zaire Williams. He got some minutes the other day too. So they just have, I think, more people they could go to, no matter the situation, the matchup, whatever. And that's going to make them a hard out as well. But if I had to pick, I would probably pick the Nuggets, just because it seems like ever since Jokic has been in this all-star form, all NBA level form, they've been a contender like every year. Even you could argue last year when they were a 6th seed, like they kind of got a bad draw with the Warriors in the first round, but if they maybe were against several other teams, they might have been in the second round of the playoffs, just because I think he's that good. And you get these other guys back as well. I don't know. I got the Nuggets, but you got any other final thoughts about either of these teams?
I think we covered everything. It's very interesting. As I said, they're both high caliber teams. As we said, though, you know, they may not be quite as good as what we think the Bucks and the Celtics are, but they're definitely still in that same kind of category of contender. Mm-hmm. So I think it's hard to sleep on either team, and no matter what team you choose, it's hard to go wrong.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. But we'll move on. We'll talk about the opposite side of the spectrum here. It's just so funny. Like, I feel like this has been a theme every show where it's like, oh, we're going to talk about someone or something that's going bad. And then, of course, they win their most recent game. And we're talking about two teams that really haven't been performing the way that people thought prior to the season, and that is the LA Clippers and the Phoenix Suns. The Clippers, they had a whole month basically where no one knew what was going on with Kawhi. Now, ever since he's come back, but he's still kind of sitting out these back-to-back games or against opponents they probably should beat. And then now Paul George is out again, so they've had their fair share of injuries. And as for the Suns, I mean, it's basically like Devin Booker. Like, this team rides so much on him. And then also they lost Cam Johnson early on. Jay Crowder's like holding out. So, I mean, there is a reason, I guess, like why maybe both of them are struggling. It's a bit inconsistent for them too. But who would you say has maybe been more disappointing between these two teams?
I definitely think it's the Clippers. Clippers have definitely been more disappointing in my personal opinion. The Suns, as we've talked about, both teams have had injuries, but the Suns, we can't forget, were at the top of the Western Conference when Devin Booker was healthy, top of the Western Conference when Chris Paul was healthy, when their team was healthy. The Clippers have never been at that point. You could say, well, Kawhi was out for a month, 2 months, however long it was, I forget. And Paul George, I was talking to some people about it, but I genuinely think Paul George has hit the wall of regression. I don't think no, that's not me saying he's a scrub or anything. But like he's definitely not improving, and I would argue he's getting worse. And Kawhi, when healthy, has been, I've talked to many Clippers fans about this, majorly disappointing. He's not been as good, not been quite as efficient. His defense obviously is still there. Kawhi's always going to provide defense. But on the offensive side, not quite as good as maybe they would have hoped. Paul George possibly hitting regression. Those two things are more of a problem that the Clippers have. The Suns are injured. Obviously, Chris Paul has regressed, but Devin Booker is the main piece, and he's so young that I'm not too worried about, obviously, injuries being a factor with him for the long term. So I think the Suns should be fine in the long haul. Clippers, maybe not so much, but I could say this, and as you said, I could just completely jinx it, and the Suns could go on and just be terrible for the rest of the season, even with Devin Booker. And Paul George could go back to be playing like Defensive Player of the Year, MVP caliber Paul George. So I personally think that the Clippers are more disappointing. But I don't know. What do you think about it?
I think I can kind of give an answer on both sides. Now, for me personally, I would probably say the Clippers just because before the season, I had high expectations for them, and I thought like this was going to be their bounce back year. This is going to be the year that they win it all. Whereas the Suns, I didn't really feel the same way about that. But I think from the public's eye, like for the most part, I feel like they would probably say the Suns have maybe been more disappointing, just because last year it's like they won 64 games. They were kind of running their mouths a little bit against Luka and the Mavericks in the playoffs, and they had like arguably the most disappointing exit either. You could argue maybe that was even more disappointing than when the Clippers lost in the bubble, just because like they got beat down so bad at home. There was no bubble like to excuse them, and they got beat by like twice the score too. So I don't know. I just think like this was supposed to be their redemption year, the Suns, but yet they still are kind of not putting it together. And the team it's so reliant, I think, on Devin Booker just because Chris Paul doesn't seem like the same player. I know he's played better when he hasn't been there, like stat-wise, but it just doesn't feel the same. Like the impact doesn't feel the same by Chris Paul. It doesn't seem like DeAndre Ayton's like happy there really. And I think you can tell like some of these guys, not everyone, but some of them on the Suns, like they're kind of bothered by the whole Jay Crowder thing as well. Like I feel like they're kind of just over it maybe with this team or with this collective group of guys. But I still think the Clippers probably have been more disappointing just because, like, of course, they're not going to be known for regular season success. Like, probably would have been projected maybe like a 3-4 seed before the year. But it's like you're kind of in the mix with all these teams. Like, I mean, Phoenix is right there with them. You got the Warriors. You got your Timberwolves. I think you got like Portland in there, Utah. And, I mean, the Lakers, we're going to talk about them, but they're kind of creeping at the end of that. But, like, there's a lot of teams in that mix, and only, like, one spot is a guaranteed playoff spot of, like, those 7-8 teams. The other ones are in the play-in. You might not get in. So that's why, like, halfway through the year, it's been kind of surprising that they kind of haven't, like, taken it as serious. I will say, like, for Kawhi's sake, I think his stats maybe are a little bit, like, misleading just because like the first half dozen games he was coming off the bench and like you said, he really wasn't like shooting the ball well. He was kind of inefficient, wasn't shooting well from three. I think over the past like maybe 12 to 15 games he's been playing a lot better. He's been looking like the Kawhi of old per se, but it just, I don't know, like I feel like there's just some guys maybe on the team they need to like filter out, and this is a hard problem with a lot of coaches when you have a lot of talent. Like we saw with Brad Stevens, like the year they had Kyrie and Hayward and Tatum, Brown, Horford, Rozier, all those guys, Smart. And like it was hard to manage all those guys and satisfy all of them for how they wanted to play. But you look at the Clippers, it's like, okay, Kawhi is missing a game, and then Norman Powell's going to go off, or John Wall might, or Reggie Jackson might. Then you bring back Kawhi, and then it's like, oh, you still got Paul George to bring back into the mix. Batum goes in and out. Terrence Mann plays one game, doesn't another. Like that, I feel like some players, like, they don't really know their role. Like, if you keep doing that, I think that's a reason too. I think like while I was looking at it a few days ago, like other than Kawhi, George, Batum, Zubac, and Terrence Mann. I think every other Clipper is like a net negative on the team. Like that's probably the most disappointing thing. Like to me, just like looking at it, it's like how are you getting outscored by that much? This team's supposed to be elite defensively. I know that offensively they've been embarrassing, kind of, but you would think they're great offensively too. I mean, how many scoring weapons do they have? I mean, they got all those guys. They got Luke Kennard. They got Covington. And it just really doesn't make a lot of sense. So I would say for me, like the Clippers have been more disappointing, but I feel like just because of how the Suns played last year and where they are right now, I feel like they would be seen as like more disappointing by more people. But clearly not you either. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. You got anything else to add here?
Well, I think you're talking about not a lot of people know when like their roles really, and I think also part of it is there's a fair few amount of people on that team that have their own ego, which every NBA player to a degree has an ego. And I was talking about this on social media before when somebody brought up Anthony Edwards saying that, oh, he's not good. He's full of himself. He's just, his ego's too big. That team will never succeed with Anthony Edwards. When I said, we gotta take it back a notch because we gotta remember, we gotta differentiate between ego and just being a young kid. Mm-hmm. Right? So Anthony Edwards, for example, he may be viewed as if he has a giant ego, even though he's a leader on the Timberwolves and we need a leader. But then we go look at the Clippers and Reggie Jackson just doesn't fit on that team. He has an ego, like whether or not he shows that off the court, but on the court, I think you look back at multiple games where he just, a lot of times, he takes too many shots. Mm-hmm. Like he's a decent guard in the league, and he takes shots like he's a premier guard when he really isn't that. And you can go back and look at last year in the play-in, the most important game of their season, and he just took a ton of shots, and they lost. Not, I wouldn't say because of Reggie Jackson taking too many shots, but he was definitely a part of them losing because he took too many shots and just. He's not very efficient at times, and when he's not efficient, he tries to shoot himself out of this slump, which causes the team to lose more often, which I feel like, I don't know, I don't watch the Clippers a ton, but it feels like that happens a lot.
Yeah, it's funny, and but I guess before we move on, I'll add one more thing. I don't like to call out NBA players per se a lot, but I did go to the Clippers-Pacers game on New Year's Eve. And the one thing that both me and my dad found that was very interesting was every Clipper warmed up to some degree and came out and shot at halftime except Reggie Jackson. So he's the only one that I'm kind of glad you said that. He's literally the only one that didn't warm up, but he still started that game in both the first quarter and the third quarter, like both halves. So I don't know. That kind of just tells me like I'm kind of better than you guys. I don't really need to warm up. Like I don't need to take this seriously. And I feel like that's something that like they need to check out. Tyronn Lue needs to check out. You know, the Steve Ballmer and Jerry West, whoever. Like they need to check it out and maybe like make a move. Because I don't know. I know he's close with Paul George and everything like that, but it might be time to move on, like you said. But other than that, though, we can move on, and we could talk about another LA team, which is the LA Lakers, who kind of have been on this redemption arc, you could say. They're only 6-4 in their last 10 games, which it's pretty good. But I think the big thing is they won 5 straight games prior to losing the other night to Denver. LeBron has been playing really well. I think ever since I saw something that said ever since he turned 38, he's averaging 38 points a game, which that's pretty crazy. Westbrook has had a few solid games. I think he had like 1 or 2 kind of stinker games since the 5-game winning streak started, but for the most part, he hasn't looked too bad. And then some of these other guys are stepping up too, like Schroeder, Thomas Bryant. So, and then this is without AD, without Austin Reeves for part of it, without Lonnie Walker for part of it. So I guess I'll ask you, like, do you think there is a possibility that the Lakers could turn around their season to be a success? And maybe, like, where do you think they could potentially end up?
I think you can never count out LeBron. I think that's been said enough. And as you said, a lot of the pieces have been stepping up. And the guy you brought up that I really want to talk about was Dennis Schroeder. He had a 32 piece against the Heat not too long ago, and I was watching that game, and it's so weird to me because Dennis Schroeder, to me, is like a less aggressive Reggie Jackson in a way. Like he's not quite as like full of himself and thinks that he should take a lot of shots. Even though I'd argue that Dennis Schroeder is a lot more efficient and he's a lot smarter with the shots he takes. So I think Dennis Schroeder really has stood out in this series of games. I saw him just kind of blowing by people. He blew by Victor Oladipo late in the game against the Heat. And I don't know. Dennis Schroeder's been playing extremely well. LeBron, as we've said, playing extremely well. Not having Anthony Davis and playing this well as a collective squad, I don't know if that should be, exciting for the Lakers, or if that's like, oh no, we're playing good without Anthony Davis. Like, was he the problem? Like, I don't know, and I suppose we'll see, right? And I don't like saying anyone's the problem because we don't have quite enough of Anthony Davis on the court over the past 2 seasons, to be honest, to really know whether or not if he fits completely with this current roster, and that's something we will find out once he comes back. Along with that, I think overall the team has been playing very well. As you don't go 4-1 in 2023 so far without being a collective unit playing for each other. Kind of going back to the Suns thing. Yesterday the Suns beat the Warriors, and Monty Williams was talking about how they have to change the scheme and they have to play for each other. And Mikal Bridges afterwards said that the reason they won that game was because they were playing with energy and playing as a collective. And I think the Lakers have started to do that, where as in, I guess last season in 2020 or 2022 rather, they just haven't been playing as a team. They've been playing more, as we like to call it in Timberwolves lore, hero ball. Versus, like, to be honest, LeBron was out their last game, which, typically you'll lose if you have LeBron out. But I think that if they continue to play collective team ball, even when Anthony Davis comes back, they can be definitely a scary franchise to look out for.
Yeah, I think, the thing for the Lakers is I feel like this is probably, at least since like the early days of like last season when there was no injuries and there was no like really bad losses like that happened in like February, March, April, like this is probably like the most like confident like a Lakers group has been. Like even Westbrook, who I mean statistically like isn't having like actually I think for the most part, I mean I know the stats are going to go down when you're playing less minutes, but he's kind of having a similar year statistically to last year, but like I just think he seems more confident. And then when it comes to like close game situations, I feel like he's done better this year so far as opposed to like last year. Outside of maybe like the first like half dozen games, I know he got a lot of like scrutiny for the Blazer game or whatever, going to 2 for 1. But I mean, pretty much ever since then, like late in game scenarios, like he hasn't been too bad. And then looking at like, LeBron, obviously, like you said, you can't really count out a player like that. And then once they get Anthony Davis back, it's just a matter of like, the three of them, getting consistent runs together between LeBron, AD, and Westbrook. And, how will the other role guys like feed off after this? Like if Thomas Bryant is going to keep playing this well, or is Schroeder going to keep playing this well, or Austin Reeves when he comes back, or Lonnie Walker when he comes back, or Kendrick Nunn. I think he played well the other night against Denver, even though they lost. Like, it's just a matter of like finding your role, and I guess this is kind of like what we talked about with the Clippers too. Like, it's just about finding your role. Like when there's people in and out, it's going to be hard. So far actually, I think they've been better this season without AD playing than when he is playing. So that's kind of like a good bad type of thing. I can't think of the word for it right now that I'm trying to say, but it's just a matter of like putting it all together. And I think Darvin Ham's done a good job of like actually energizing the players too. Because nothing against Frank Vogel. I think he is like a solid NBA coach, but it just seems like the players kind of tuned him out like last year, and it was too much. And it seemed like Darvin Ham, like, even if you could argue like between him and Vogel as a better coach or whatever, like I think the one thing right now is that he can actually like grasp the energy of the team better than Vogel could last season. But I don't know. I mean, before the season, I had the Lakers at the bottom of the play-in. I still think they could be a play-in team. I would probably not bet they could be above the play-in just because so many of those teams, like we talked about, Denver, Memphis, New Orleans, when they get healthy especially. Dallas has played better. And some of these teams in the middle too, I would probably have more trust in them, like maybe the Warriors or the Clippers, to turn it around. So it's going to be hard to get above there, but I think they could definitely get in the play-in, and I mean, that's a one game, like a winner-go-home scenario every time. So, I mean, they definitely could get in there. Like you said, you can't really count out players like this. 3 of the top 75 players on the 75th anniversary team. So, we'll see. But, I don't know. You got anything else to say about the Lakers?
No, I'm just glad you mentioned Russell Westbrook and then talking about Frank Vogel and Darvin Ham. It just seemed like Frank Vogel was scared to make adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was too afraid to mess with, as we go back to the ego thing, mess with the egos of the players, the star players, the players that have been extremely successful in the past. And the first thing that comes to my mind, not benching Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
Now they're doing it. Now they're being successful. Russell Westbrook has been there, as you said, very solid off the bench. And I think that that's a prime role for him right now.
Mm-hmm. But we can move on and we can talk about a former teammate of Russell Westbrook, who unfortunately is going to be out with injury, and that is Kevin Durant. They said he's expected to miss. I saw a report that said like 2 weeks, and then another one said like a month. So I would probably bet like somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks. But overall, I mean, the Nets, they just came off like a 12-game winning streak recently, and they've been playing really well. Arguably, Durant deserves MVP praise, but what do you think this means now, like, for Brooklyn?
Well, I saw an article that said, KD's out, say a month, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He's out for a month, but the East landscape doesn't change. I think that's incredibly incorrect. I mean, you say you still have good pieces. You got Kyrie. Ben Simmons been playing better as of late. You still have pieces. You can't say you lose Kevin Durant and you don't hurt from it. Like, it's just not going to work that way, especially when KD has been by far and above the best player on that Nets team and has been, I wouldn't say carrying, because you still got Kyrie. You got Ben Simmons, who's been doing better. And but KD has been doing a large amount of the load that the Nets team needs. So I think the Nets right now sitting in second place in the East with the Bucks right behind them. I think the Bucks are going to, jump them, obviously. I think the Nets are going to be a good team. Not 12 wins in a row good. I also think they're not going to be like a below 500 during the span type good, but I think they'll be like, a 600 team or so until KD comes back, maybe a little above 600, and see what happens there. But I think KD is a massive losing KD is a massive blow, and if anyone tries to say otherwise, either they don't watch basketball or they're in denial.
Yeah. I think it's tough. I mean, we've seen this like over the past, it seems like every season the past 3 years, Durant has played well to start the year, like MVP talks, and then he gets that injury every January that keeps him out for about a month. And then, the Nets, I think in the first season, they didn't really struggle too bad because they also had Harden, who was playing like an MVP with the Nets at that point. But last year, I mean, obviously, I had Kyrie, who was kind of like in and out like half the time. And, they kind of went on a big slide. I think they went on like an 11-game losing streak last year, if I'm correct. And they were, as a Bulls fan, I remember like they were right next to us, like with the 1-2 seed at this point. And then they dropped all the way down to, I think their lowest was 10th. Like they fell to the 10 seed, and I think they ended like 7th. But, right now they're sitting at 2. And it's kind of crazy. You said like someone said that the landscape of the East wouldn't change. I don't buy that at all. I think that there's at least 3 teams right below them, being Milwaukee, Cleveland, and Philadelphia that are going to pass them probably over the stretch for as long as KD is out. Now, I think they could still be 5th just because they have a massive lead on like the rest of the pack. But, I mean, Miami, like they've started to put a little bit of a streak kind of together. The Indiana Pacers have been playing well. The Knicks have been playing hard. My Bulls somehow like are playing better. I don't even know how. So maybe there's some teams in there that just go on a big winning streak and it becomes even harder. But I think if we know anything over not even just the last 2-3 years, like since he's been in Brooklyn, but probably ever since 2007 is you're probably not going to win many games when Kevin Durant's not playing. It's just going to be a lot harder, especially when he's on the sidelines. So I don't know. You got anything else here?
Not really. I think we covered it. A lot of teams that could obviously jump the Nets, and as we've kind of talked about, that article is ridiculous. There's no way that it doesn't change. And as you said, you're not going to win as many ball games without one of the best players of all time on your team playing. Whatever. Yeah, it's going to change. Nets could slide down to 5, could slide lower, or maybe they shock us and keep playing well. Who really knows?
Yeah, I guess we'll see. But we can move on, and we could talk about a little interesting topic that was kind of more blew up in the past 24 hours, and that is former NBA player Smush Parker is trying to get into the game of being an NBA referee. I think he put up a tweet that said there's only 3 other former players that had ever been an NBA referee before, and he's like, I want to be the 4th. And he showed, I think, a 30-second clip or something on Instagram of him. I don't know what he was officiating, if it was like a U12 game or something like that. I'm not even sure. But what would you think of Smush Parker getting back into the NBA landscape, but as an NBA referee?
I don't know about you, but I think everybody needs some more Smush Parker in their life. And it's going to be if he gets NBA level and is refereeing, and you go to Target Center, which may not be the best venue in the world, but I will tell you, we have some of the best fans, and we have to yell, "Refs, you suck," at Smush Parker. It will make, oh my gosh, it will make my year.
Yeah. I think it'd be cool. I mean, just because nobody really knows, yeah, we all know the players, but other than maybe a few common referees like Scott Foster, or Tony Brothers, or Zach Zarba or something like that, you don't really know most of the officials. I feel like most people don't really care to know about them. You know what I mean? So to see Smush Parker out there, it's wow, way to go, or something like that. But I don't know. Maybe it'd probably be funny. I would be interested to see how he officiates the Laker games. If he still has a stigma against his time with Kobe on the Lakers or anything like that. When he insulted him back in the day. But I don't know. I just thought this was kind of interesting, and who knows? I think he definitely has the the name thing on his side. He doesn't have to probably work as hard, which sounds probably stupid saying that, but it's probably the reality of it. Just because his name's Smush Parker, he probably would have a higher chance getting in, but I would like to see it still. Yeah,
me too. It'd be very fun.
Yeah. But if you want, we can move on to the NBA 20 questions game. Now, I'll read off the rules so to recap with you, and also to anyone new watching. So basically, my man JELSON here can ask me 20 questions on each individual question to try and gather information to know what NBA related thing he's guessing about. It could be a current player, former player, current team, former team, a coach, anything like that. If he gets it after one guess, then he gets 20 points, 2 guesses, 19 points, and it goes from there. You're allowed one guess after every one guess at the thing after every like hint related question you ask me. And you have to ask at least 5 of the hint related questions before you can give up if you literally do not know. Other than that, there's 3 in total, so there's a maximum of 60 points. Are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
Okay, so the very first one, you can ask away, and I'll get my phone so I can mark down how many you've asked.
All right, so is this player, coach, or team currently active?
It's a good question. And yes, they are currently active.
Is this player, coach, or team in the Western Conference?
No.
Is this a team?
No.
Okay. Is this a player?
Yes.
Was this player in the playoffs last season?
Yes.
Would you consider this player a star?
Yes.
Okay.
So you've used 6 so far. You still got 14 more.
Is this a guard?
No.
Wait, so this is a question not for this question, but
Okay.
so if I guess a player, it doesn't count towards my guesses, right?
Right. You're allowed
Is
one
it-
of those after every single question you ask, like to learn more information.
Is this Joel Embiid?
It is not Joel Embiid.
Well then I should ask, is it a forward?
Yes.
Jason Tatum.
No, it is not Jason Tatum.
You're gonna get me guessing players now. You say he's a star, he's a forward, he's in the East, and he was in the playoffs.
Now, you could keep guessing. Like, you don't have to ask hints, but after every other hint, like, every one you ask, like, it's going to take off another point you could earn.
Okay, yeah.
So that's why it's best to get the hints.
Yeah. Is this player in... Let me think. Hold on. Is this player in the Central Division?
Yes.
Is this DeMar DeRozan?
It is not DeMar DeRozan.
Is it Giannis?
Yes, it is Giannis.
I do. Yes. Okay, good.
So I took off another point for that because you asked back-to-back like guesses. So you still got 11 points. Only used 10 questions. Not too bad. But I think it's going to get a little harder from here. So are you ready for the second one?
Maybe, but let's go.
All right. You can ask away.
All right. Well, I guess I'll start with the same question. Is it this thing active?
No.
No. Okay. Is it a coach?
No.
Is it a player?
Yes.
Has he played within the last 5 years?
No.
Has he played within the last 10 years?
No.
Is this player from the Western Conference?
Yes. Now, I will say, so he played for both to not confuse you, but the team he mainly played for like was in the West.
Okay.
Well, actually, let me rephrase that. And this might even be an extra hint for you, but he played on a franchise that's currently in the Western Conference.
Okay. So that gives me the hint of what had relocated or had been switched divisions.
Mm-hmm. Let me look
which
up to
makes
make sure they were like. I want to make sure like what conference they were in at that time, but I'll double check. But what were you gonna ask?
um. So I could be completely wrong about this, but I believe the Bulls were in the Western Conference at one point.
They were. That's not a question I'm gonna like put on your thing,
Yeah.
but
No, yeah, I was just kind of thinking out loud.
mm,
Um. So so I'm assuming he played at that point when they were in the Eastern Conference and then some in the Western possibly. Um, which makes me think it's a very old player. No matter who it is, really. Um, who else has moved conferences?
so I do have the stuff pulled up. This team was in the East, like back when he played, mainly,
Okay.
but now they're a Western Conference franchise.
Um, yeah. Now they're in the Western Conference. So the Bulls went from the West to the East. So now we're looking for a. Okay, all right, hold on. So you said that when he played, they were in the Eastern Conference?
When he played, this franchise was in the East. Yes.
Okay. So
Now they're
now
in the West.
think about franchises that moved over to the West rather than okay. Um,
And he did play, like I said, he played for both conferences, but like I'm talking about the team he was most known for.
yeah. Um, gosh, let me ask: is the team he's most known for now in the Northwest Division?
No.
Did this player ever play for the Warriors?
No.
I don't know. Is that team currently in the Pacific Division?
Yes.
Now, this is a big thing. Now I'm trying to think of teams that have relocated or teams that have just moved for whatever reason. Um, which I don't know how far back, and I don't know much. My brain isn't that big, but it makes me think. I'm not sure if the Lakers were ever in the East when they were in Minneapolis. It doesn't make much sense. Or I mean, I guess maybe it does make sense. I don't. Depends on who you ask, I guess. So Was this player ever played for the Lakers?
He did not ever play for the Lakers.
Okay.
Gosh, this really is a hard one. I feel like there's only like one team in the Pacific Division that like never played in the East, like in the Eastern Conference area or something like that.
I'm like, is this the Clippers?
Yes, the
Okay.
that franchise is the Clippers.
Okay. Now I don't know Clippers. The Clippers suck. Sorry, Clippers fans. Um, and it has to be an old Clippers player. Is this is this player a guard?
Yes.
Um, how many questions have I asked?
You've asked 12.
Okay.
So you have 8 more.
So has okay. Um, old player played for the Clippers. Uh, okay, so I don't know. Was this like? Actually, no, I don't know what dude, I don't know what questions I asked to go from this point. Like a guard that had played for the Clippers at one point when the Clippers were in the East, but also had played for a different franchise before, but is most known for playing for the Clippers in the East.
Yeah.
This might be a stupid question. I don't know enough about the Clippers franchise history. Were the Clippers named something else?
Uh, yes.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if I should count that or not. Like to your question total.
Well, I don't know either. That's why I was like hesitant on asking it. I was like,
I'm not gonna count it just because I feel like this is a hard one, anyways.
yeah.
I'm interested to see if you'll get it.
I don't.
You could give up if you don't know.
Is this like Dave Bing?
It's not.
I don't know.
It's not Dave Bing, no.
Should I just start guessing old guards?
You could, yeah, if you want.
Nah, I think that's kind of useless. I don't know enough about old guards. I guess I could just start naming old guards. Bob Cousy.
No.
Dude, I'm just gonna name people that I got no idea if they've ever played for the franchise. Like, I give up. Honestly, I give up.
You give
honestly.
up? Okay. Yeah. This is a tough one. I don't know if you would have known it off the top of your head, but I picked Giannis for the first one, and he was like he's now the all-time Bucks leading scorer in total points. This guy has the all-time most points in Clipper history. Back then, they were known as the Buffalo Braves.
Yes.
And this player is Randy Smith.
Who?
Randy Smith.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know who that plumber is.
He was a 2-time All-Star. He made All-NBA second team once. So he was not bad, but he also played with Bob McAdoo, who he probably got like less spotlight because Bob McAdoo was on the team. But yeah, I had to give you a hard one for the second one because Giannis, I feel like that's kind of almost like a free first one.
With Giannis, I was kind of scared to ask him because I thought it was a little too easy. Like,
yeah.
But yeah.
Well, you do have one more that you could get. Maybe you could redeem yourself for the Randy Smith. Are you ready?
I'm about as ready as Randy Smith is.
All right. Well, he's ready, man.
He's always ready. He stays ready.
He's ready, Randy. All right. So the third one, you can ask away.
All right. Is this a coach?
Yes.
Active coach?
Yes.
Western Conference?
No.
Sorry, I'm looking at the teams. Okay. Was this coach? Is this coach considered? No, I'm not gonna ask that. Was this coach in the playoffs?
Last season?
Yeah.
He was not in the playoffs. No.
So he was in the play-in.
I don't know. Are you asking that or?
No, I know he's in the play-in.
Okay, maybe.
I just got a huge brain, you know.
Maybe.
Last season was in the play-in. Was this coach coaching during the Hornets Hawks playing game?
No.
Is this Hornets? Is that a playing game?
That was last year, yeah. That was like the 9-10.
Okay. Okay. Just making sure I got that right. Eastern Conference, I'm assuming was in the play-in. Um, is this a legendary coach?
I mean, I wouldn't say
Like
so.
all-time great. Okay.
I
So
wouldn't say
not
so.
all-time great.
No.
Is this the best coach of all time? Right here? Is this the best coach of all time? Steve Nash.
No.
Um, oh, then it has to be the Cavs coach. I forget his name.
Are you guessing JB Bickerstaff?
Yes.
Yes, it is JB Bickerstaff. Yeah. That's not bad. So you got on that one 14 points. Overall, pretty solid with 25 points. Yeah, I feel like I kind of gave it away when I said like he wasn't in the play-in last year, but I
No,
didn't.
you're like the playoff. He wasn't in the playoffs. Like the way you said it was like,
Well, see, I didn't want to feel bad if I said like no, and then like if you were considering the play-in as part of like the playoffs, because then I'd be like, well, then I kind of like lied to him or something.
yeah, no, nah.
Yeah. All right. Well, next time I'll know that when you ask was he in the playoffs, I'll say yes or no. Uh, regardless, though, you still got 25 points. Not too bad. It's not the best, unfortunately, but it's also not the worst.
What did Hindu get?
Hindu, I have the stats here. He got 23, so you edged him out.
You're a fraud, Hindu. If you're watching this, you're a bum.
Wow.
What can I say? What can I say? He said he would dunk on me yesterday. Now I have beef with him. I'm gonna text him about that now.
Awesome. Now, one more thing I've been doing every episode to end off is for my guests to give me at least one player. It could be a current player. It could be a former player. Give me one NBA player that you do like and one NBA player you don't. And if it's someone like that's already been said, I'll just ask you for a different player.
That I so just a
Yeah.
player that I enjoy watching, enjoy basketball. Shout out Kenny. Let's see. A player that I really do enjoy watching, and I don't want to give like a super generic answer, but I'm gonna, Anthony Edwards. Great
Okay.
player to watch. Pretty much the only reason I watch that team at this point. A player I don't like. There's two that we've talked about in this video that I could talk about. It's between Reggie Jackson, but I don't not like him. I feel like he's okay. Like it's definitely Dylan Brooks.
Dylan Brooks.
Yeah.
All right. I will put that down. All right. Yeah. No one said Anthony Edwards, and no one said Dylan Brooks either. So yeah, that's good. That works out. But other than that, I think you did pretty decent on the 20 questions game. I think I don't remember how you did last time I had you on a trivia thing, but
I did bad. I did very bad.
Oh, did you? Yeah. Well, hopefully you feel better about your performance this time than you did that time. But yeah. Other than that, though, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching. You got any final thoughts before we close it out?
Appreciate you having me on the show. And sorry, Hindu. It kind of sounds like a you problem, bro. My fault.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe there'll be a rematch in the future. We'll have to see. But other than that, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching, and we're out. Peace.